Sometimes you just gotta let it ride out and feel it for a minute. But y'all, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast about all the nerdy things you love and enjoy, or we love and enjoy, but you as well, hopefully.
We don't like these things.
Yeah,
we're
we're here for the money, and that's it.
Yes, there are dozens of dollars in this for us.
But welcome, y'all. As always, we're I can speak. Your co-hosts. I'm Will. That's Blake. And today we're here to talk a little Critical Role. But before we get into that, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I was trying to channel my son, my 2-year-old. Whenever I leave the house, he goes to the door and he goes, that's his goodbye. I don't know. He just stands at the door and he goes,
I respect it, you know?
I'm always like, okay.
All right.
You're driving away. You're like, is my kid weird? So anyway,
takes after his dad.
Probably true. I'm good. It's end of the day. It's been a long week. How about yourself? How are you?
I'm doing good as well. A little tired, and I won't go there for everyone's sake, but I broke my rule because I am tired and I'm having a little coffee later than I normally would like to. But
are you though? Because it's 4:00 now, and I feel like we typically record in the 3 to 4 range, and you always got a cup, man.
Well, 3 is my cutoff time.
You
listen, I gotta make it before 3, but I'll sip on a coffee for 45 minutes. So I
feel like there's been a little bit of a saga of the last year, you just accepting who you are. That's.
I mean, I do, I do, but I just, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I need to talk to somebody about this and learn to accept myself.
My mic, yeah, that's nice, man. My mic keeps. It's weird, man. Sometimes your volume, the computer changes your volume.
Oh yeah.
It's doing. I don't know why it does this, but sometimes it changes it from 70 down to 40, and I don't know why. I've looked everywhere. I cannot find where it does this or why it does it. Other than it just makes it really annoying when I'm cutting the recap and our volumes are totally off and I have to go in and try to equalize it and all this stuff. But this time I actually looked in advance and was nope, I'm a lot quieter. And sure enough, it was set down to 40. So
yeah, I had the same issue when I streamed all the time. Every time it reset and I had to adjust my mic settings literally before every stream. I also don't know if it's me or if it's you, or maybe it's because we're hyper focused on talking about mics, but I heard some of that noise when you were talking.
Crickly crackly right now?
Yeah. Just a little, it wasn't bad, but just a little bit.
All right, let's take a look here. See what's going on here. Check. Okay. See if that.
I think it hasn't happened again. So
yeah, that might make it okay then.
Boom.
So okay, announcements.
Yeah, that's what I was going as well. I was just the usual as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you have anything else, but I'll run through the usual real quick.
The Witcher season 2.
Yep. No. Season 3. That. We really just got to get to season 3 now. Yeah. I still haven't watched it, but I do plan on it.
With Henry Cavill.
Cavill, as some might say.
I feel like Cavill is more British.
Yeah, I mean, he is English, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it is Cavill, just for the record, for anybody out there. Discord, join the Discord. There will be a link down below. We've got the re-emergence. Can't think of the word I'm looking for here, but the re-emergence of our watch parties this Sunday. So come hang out for that.
We're watching Blue Sub 6. It's a anime movie miniseries dubbed as a movie. From Old School Toonami. So you can check that out this Sunday at 7:30.
7:30, that's right.
Yep.
Excited for that. But as always, in addition to stuff like that, we've always got great people chatting around the Discord. We do live chats for Critical Role episodes, which there's not one this week, but there is a new Candela, and there will definitely be people in there chatting for that. So come hang out there. Other than that, we got our live stream this Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time. Always a good time there. Just come chat with us about, anything, really, but especially D&D, Critical Role, Worlds Beyond related, Thai
Someone
food.
comes in and like has a question about like some like geopolitical like serious issue.
Yeah. Maybe
Like,
give us some softballs instead.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
typically we talk a lot D&D, Critical Role, Worlds Beyond. We talk like everybody's favorite theories, what's going to happen. Especially though D&D though, if you have questions about great DMing, great sessions, maybe a problem you're facing at your table that you want to get our perspective on, you can always throw that into the actual stream chat. But then we also in our Discord, we have a channel called Pixelists live stream that you can put questions in there, or in like the D&D channel is fine as well. So we typically talk about those things there.
yeah. Other than that, you guys are going to get sick of us saying this, but if you're not checking out Worlds Beyond Number yet, you should. This is a great time to jump in because the episode of that show that came out today was the end of an arc. And after each end of an arc, they take a break. So, be a perfect time to catch up if you've been, just waiting for a good excuse. It's fantastic. I actually have not listened to the finale yet.
No,
Have you?
I did. It was
Whole thing?
I have about 20 minutes left, but
Mm,
yeah, pretty much done with it.
good.
Very, very good.
I'm excited. Yeah,
Just,
I think I'm gonna
just
hit it this
beautiful.
weekend.
It's just beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's
Taylor
good.
Moore
Yeah, yeah.
is
That's what
great.
I'm saying. Y'all need to watch it and join us over in that community as well because it's you won't regret it.
Yeah.
But anything else?
No, sir.
Well, alrighty. In that case, let's get down to business here. Today we're going to be talking about Critical Role episode 86. And as always, we like to launch into a recap before we get into our in-depth discussion. And we cut that recap out and host it separately on YouTube for your convenience. So if you happen to find yourself on that recap video and you want to hear our full thoughts and discussion on the episode, it will be linked down in the description below. So let me just pull up my notes here. Alrighty, so for, again, episode 86, called Doorways to Darker Depths. We pick up right where we left off, with Fern having been seemingly transported to a new place altogether, after traveling through this, underwater tunnel, if you will, on Ruidus. So she actually quickly realizes that this is Exandria, I think because they can see Katha from where they are. So she can't communicate with the rest of Bell's Hells. So she decides to swim back and kind of fill them in on what she found through this portal tunnel, if you will. So the party discusses for a while, like what they should do because they are very like exhausted. They need a rest. So they're like, should we rest here? Should we go through and rest over there? Like, we don't know what we're going to find over there. What if we get in a fight? So they go through this for a bit, but they ultimately decide to all travel through to Exandria together and then basically get in their mist forms to be like, have some level of safety and just investigate what's over there. So they do just that and begin to look around this lake area. And they see that there's like the small village town on kind of one of the edges of this lake, but it appears to be completely abandoned. But what's weird is like houses are still like fully furnished, like as if people just kind of like up and disappeared. Not that like the place was, intentionally abandoned. There's dust everywhere and like the plants are overgrown. So the party kind of splits up a little bit to investigate different parts of this town. And Orem and Laudna go to look for like a clerk's office or like the town hall to see if they can find some records. And they eventually find just such a building. They find some records and they realize that this place is called, and I might be mispronouncing this, Ria Duin. Haven't heard it pronounced since Thursday, so I can't remember how Matt said it.
I think it was Ryadun.
Ryadun? Okay.
Or Rydun. I can't
That
remember.
sounds right.
Yeah.
So that's the name of this place. And amongst the records, they also find that the lake is called Lake Umamu, and that there are just records of like birth certificates, death certificates, like different conflicts that happened in the town. But interestingly, they find some records about people just up and missing, like up and disappearing. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And specifically, there is record of a fishmonger saying that he saw somebody walk into the lake one night and then like wasn't seen again. And then the fishmonger himself disappeared shortly after that. So we then cut to like F.C.G, who has, I guess, demystified at this point, and cast Speak with Animals. Or it's not important, but I can't remember if he cast that while in mist form or not. It's not important. F.C.G casts Speak with Animals on a nearby bird to basically get some information about what's going on here. And the bird's like, yeah, this place has been abandoned for a long time. It's been like 5 years since I saw anybody here. So F.C.G asks about like, are there any monsters in the lake or anything? And the bird's like, I haven't seen anything like that, but people that do come through here do end up like going into the lake, and then I don't see them again. So the party kind of like reconvenes and discusses like, well, okay, what should we do? Like, should we rest here? There's kind of some weird vibes. Like maybe that's not the best move. Um, and meanwhile, Imogen has collected several things from around this town to basically go give to Keyleth, so they could teleport here. Like she's doing that just in case they need something like that. And Ashton has gone to investigate like the richest house that they could find to see if there's anything there, but none of that really comes up with anything. So Chetney ultimately says like, hey, Imogen, can you just like open up your mind powers and see if like you can sense anything around here? And she doesn't feel anything. So they ultimately decide, let's go back to that nice home that Ashton had checked out and maybe just rest. And you know, we'll see what's up after that. So they do that. A couple things happen. F.C.G casts Identify on some of the loot that they had taken, specifically the ring from the Will Master. And we realize that this is a ring of life awareness that basically like sends out a signal should something happen to the wearer. So somebody out there knows that the Will Master is dead. Um, Chetney makes a new toy that is seemingly representative of a new feat that Travis has. We don't find any more out about this right now, but presumably from his deal with Nana Mori, I think. Orem then tries to contact Caleb with the Sending Stone and tells him where they are. And to everyone's surprise, the Sending Stone actually works. So Imogen actually then uses her sending spells to message Caleb and is like, "Are you okay? Like, here's what's going on. Here's where we are." And he says, "Yeah, I'm okay. I don't know why sending spells are working all of a sudden." But then like the message runs out, like the 25 word limit runs out. So Imogen then sends one to Keyleth, kind of filling her in as well, letting her know like where they think they are and briefly what they discovered while on Ruidus. And Keyleth's like, I'm handling some business, but I'll come meet up with you like tomorrow. We can talk more. And Imogen's like, well, we need to go back to Ruidus. Like there's more for us to find out. So we're gonna like leave a trail for you to where this portal is that is like a back door from Ruidus. And in the morning we're gonna go back and like investigate more of this capital city and stuff. And so cool. But then Imogen gets a message from Jester. And she's like, Caleb asked me to check in on you guys. And it's a fun little convo, but like not too much is revealed, if you will. They just kind of introduce each other and, you know, find out that Caleb is indeed okay. So Orem then tries the Sending Stone again to Dorian. Basically like, hey, Dorian, are you okay? But there's no response. But instead, Orem starts to hear something outside and he thinks it is Dorian. The party's like, what do you mean? Like, Dorian's not outside, bro. But Orem's like convinced and he's like, I'm going outside to look. So like Ashton gets in Orem's way and is like, you're not going out there. Like, this is weird. But then Ashton starts to hear something and is like, you know what? Actually, I think Dorian is out there. And he's like, let's go. And then F.C.G and Chetney also get like this weird compulsion to go outside and to look in the lake. Meanwhile, Laudna, Imogen, and Fern do not have this. And they're like, what are you guys doing? But they ultimately can't stop them. Laudna does send Pate out to go look, but rolls terribly, so he can't see anything. And so all the guys go start walking into the lake. And Imogen actually casts command on them to be like, hey, stop, turn around. But and it works on everybody except Ashton. So Ashton continues to walk into the water. The other three turn around, but as command only lasts for 1 round or 6 seconds, the 3 of them then turn back around and start going into the lake once more. I believe Imogen once again like reaches out with her mind and can feel another presence here, like some sort of intelligence both behind them and below them. And so she turns around and Ashton has dived underwater at this point. And that's where we go to break on the first half.
Yeah, so coming out of the break, basically Laudna, Imogen, and Fern are like what do we do? And Matt does this brilliant characterization of F.C.G, Ashton, Orem, and Shetney just deeply needing to get to the bottom of the lake. And the way Matt describes it is like, this is where you were always meant to be. This is essentially home. Like, you need to make it to the bottom of this lake. And meanwhile, like I said, Laudna, Fern, and Imogen are like, what can we do to stop this? Fern's going to try a few different things. She has the idea to do Scorching Ray and is like, well, we're underwater. She has the idea to summon Mister, but again, it's a fire elemental underwater. Imogen, I think, casts, I think attacks one of them, I think, to try to break the spell. But the star moment is Laudna casts Animate Object on, I think it was like a rickety boat that was either
Yeah.
like shipwrecked on like the dock or like on the shore or maybe even underwater. I can't
Excuse me.
remember.
Yeah, it was like
But
a wrecked boat underneath.
Animate object on a boat and a long piece of rope, to which Matt immediately characterizes. We find out later this is all in Laudna's head, but I think their names are Bodhi and Rope,
Yeah,
maybe. I
Bodhi and
can't remember.
Ropey, I think, something like
Yeah,
that.
and just the best characters in Critical Role. And Laudna immediately assumes the role of captain and basically commands them, like, go get our friends. So the ship and the rope go deeper underwater. There's also another charisma saving throw that the four guys the guys at the table have to roll. 3 of them are successful. Ashton is unsuccessful. Ashton has a -2 to charisma. And 3 of them basically snap out of it, except for Ashton, who's just going deeper towards the bottom. At the bottom, they realize, like, amongst like the sand and soot and dirt, a number of skeletons, skulls, bones, things like that at the bottom. And Matt describes like almost like these tendrils, like hair, these black tendrils that are sort of like waving in the water and that essentially embrace Ashton and sort of cradle him almost like a baby, in the sense of like, this is home, like you're in the right place. We do get a really cool detail of Orem casting Misty Step, which seems to confirm that he now has the Fey Touched feat, which we'll talk about in our episode discussion, and is going to Misty Step basically to Ashton to try and attack Ashton to break Ashton out of it. And I'm trying to think what else happened in terms of them trying to get everybody out. We also get confirmation about Fern, because while they're going deeper, there's this immense cold damage that's happening from whatever this entity is at the bottom of the lake. We know that Fern talks about her chill from the grave feat that she got from the Dread Captain by giving him her warmth several episodes prior at the Shattered Teeth. And this makes her resistant to cold damage. So she's successful on a save against it, so she takes half damage, and then this, I think, gives her like a full either damage removal or half of even that. I can't remember. All that to say, Ashton does eventually snap out of it. F.C.G is going to cast Turn Undead, fails the first time. The second time, the creature fails, and it seemingly relinquishes its grasp on Ashton and the party, and they are basically able to finally escape, but not before Orem wants to grab one of the skulls that are at the bottom, and even gets captured himself for a brief moment before this turn undead is successful. They get back to the shore. Laudna has a bit of a life crisis of Bodhi and Ropey, the spell ending and them returning. She has this comment about like the frailty of life, which was just pretty funny. And they ultimately decide we need to get back to Ruidus. We need to get back to Ruidus, and we need to leave a trail for Keyleth and whoever else comes to let them know how to get to Ruidus. So they go back through the portal, back through the cave that leads back to this like seemingly like temple grounds, like deep beneath the earth of Ruidus. And it's here where they take a long rest. They take the long rest, a couple of things that happen. Orem is wondering why Dorian didn't respond to the sending stone. And then separately, Laudna steals away and has a conversation with Delilah and is like, Delilah, like, what's our end game? Like, what are we trying to do here? And Delilah's like, continue to consume items of power, continue to feed me. And then you'll be able to protect the people you love, the one you love, seemingly Imogen. I almost thought it to be like, like Ashton, right? So basically saying like, hey, if you want to protect the ones you love, we got to keep doing this thing. To which Lud is kind of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like I'm all about it. And the party gets a long rest. They awake. They have to make a decision on if they should climb back to the very top or if they should take one of the various tunnels beneath the earth of Ruidus. They know they don't have many of the buffs that they had going into the previous day when they first snuck into Ruidus, for lack of a better phrasing. So they do ultimately decide to stick to one of the tunnels, which I can't remember what Matt described it as, like not a tunnel worm, but like you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like the name, one of them's insightful to like a creature that has basically dug these tunnels.
Right.
And almost even like implies it's almost like a subway that's come through and like dug out this tunnel. They go down through this tunnel for a few hours before they finally make it to the end of a tunnel, which has collapsed in. And it's rather than going backwards, they actually have Ashton activate his Shard of Comort, where he can do his earth sliding. I can't remember the D&D, the 5e term for it. But Ashton becomes one with the earth and immediately goes into the rock and realizes that there are a number of tunnels all around them, but there is a way that he can take them all the way to the surface, which isn't far away. They go to the surface, they travel for another few hours, and once they get to a point essentially where the ground lights up like in a bright light, and it is a Ruidus flare. Everyone is almost blinded by it, but they do see Fern and Imogen. Imogen actually is lifted up into the air like 20 feet, and Matt describes Fern and Imogen being in a state of total euphoria as this flare happens. He also tells the two of them that they've received 15 temporary hit points, and they also realize that likely everyone who's Ruidus born is also getting those same bonuses. One other detail that happens in this episode is they do look at the second ring that the not the Taskmaster, I can't think of her name.
The Willmaster.
The Willmaster had. It is a ring of protection. They consume it with the harness, which grants the benefit of 2 permanent hit points, which is kind of cool. And then also, I can't remember who actually consumed it.
I think it was Laudna.
Laudna gets advantage on all of her attack rolls and ability checks till the next long rest. So a boon for the day in addition to the 2 permanent hit points. They continue traveling and they do finally see a large mountain range with a valley cut between it. And they see what seems to be the edge of the city of Kavirus, to which Chetney jokes that we're going to storm the castle and kill them all. And that is where the episode ends. Episode 86 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. So if you're watching just our recap, don't forget we have our full episode discussion. Just click the link below and let us know what you thought about the episode as well. So
Pop.
Well
done.
All right, my friend. Let's go a little retro today. What'd you think of the episode?
Okay. This was a fun episode, man.
It was.
Especially the first half, with this kind of like spooky mystery in the town. And
it was really fun on the watch party.
Yeah, it was.
That was really fun.
So, again, plug for the Discord if you guys are looking for fun people to watch with. It was a really good time last week. But yeah, the first half of the episode was really fun, and that's not to say that the second half wasn't. But I just really liked that kind of small encounter that Matt had set up and the whole vibe of that town.
Have you read anything as to what that was?
No, I actually haven't.
Okay.
So I'm curious.
I'm curious too what that was.
Yeah, but cool. I can't. There's a D&D monster I'm thinking of that has like a crazy name. But the one I'm thinking of isn't like undead or
Mhm.
at the bottom of a lake, but it could similarly like give players like visions and compulsions. So it might have even been like a homebrew that Matt kind of like,
Mm.
took some pieces from here and there. But yeah, let us know in the comments if that is like a specific 5e monster, because I would like to know.
Yeah,
Um,
or if it's inspired, if you think
yeah,
it's inspired by a certain one, because
yeah.
Matt has a lot of great DMs, but they'll take a monster and tweak it a little bit. So I'm definitely curious. I wonder if it was an aberration or if it was undead. I would guess undead because of the fact that Chetney did the 15 necrotic damage and it was, I think, immune to it. I think is what Matt said.
Something like that.
Um, so I'm curious about that. But yeah, that town was interesting.
Yeah.
I was all in on a theory of it being Ludinus's hometown. Um, but I'm not so away from that though. I'm on the there's been this big question mark of we know Ludinus is not Rudisborn, or it's at least been implied. We don't know he has it, but it's been implied.
Well, he say he wasn't, which, or how do we know that?
I don't think they were in the office of the professor in wherever that was. And
Eos.
yeah, I think they asked him directly and he like hesitated and said, I've spoken with Predathos. So it almost felt like he's not, but he's had conversations. I think
Yeah,
that's the
I don't
case.
remember the exact line either, but I feel pretty confident that we know he's not Born for some reason.
So point being, we know he's originally from Isilra.
Right.
So could this be like a summer home? Like went here for the summers or something and found the portal to Ruidus? Or do we think that this portal opened up after the Malleus Key created the Bloody Bridge?
Yeah, I'm wondering all of this too, because like I feel like I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. This portal in this lake, I don't think is how like Ludinus made connection.
Okay.
That's not to say that like he still couldn't be tied to it in some way for some purpose, but it doesn't make sense to me that like that's how he found Predathos. Because I don't know. I mean, maybe it is though. I mean, who knows? But it is interesting that that town is in Isilra. Um, like maybe it's proximity for leading to Ludinus's hometown. Should they come back through this back door, and it's like maybe that's like a next plot point to investigate potentially or something. But I did like kind of the what's the word I'm like, not meta, but like the in-world explanation for. Well, hold on, before I go there, the other point you're talking about is, did this portal work before the bloody bridge? That's a really interesting question for me, because like there was a divine gate-esque kind of
Mhm.
lock on the world, right? So you would think that even if they didn't know about this portal, like we gotta, like in my mind, the divine gate doesn't require a necessity of knowledge to plug all these portholes. It would just be like you did the divine gate, the whole thing's locked off. Is that like, what do you think?
Part of me wonders if Matt is like homebrewing some kind of like element of like the water plane being like a factor of it is that it can transcend the divine gate or like
Mm,
barriers like that. Cause I think about the other episode really early on where Fern was in like the water pot or
right,
whatever,
right.
and like something similar happened.
Yeah, she like
So
seemingly went to the elemental plane of water.
yeah, so like I wonder if there's like something happening there that the gods didn't realize that Exandria and Ruidus are like just forever interconnected. Like they did the divine gate, but maybe it is porous. Maybe there is like incredibly, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I guess the other explanation is like with the bloody bridge, it's like not only is it removing the divine gate, but it's actually like recoalescing. It's like if you had a magnet and you put something between them and then you removed that thing, those things would come back together. Like I almost
Mm,
wonder if the gods pulled them apart and now it's like we're seeing the literal physical manifestation of them coming back,
yeah,
of like these portals opening up and these. So I mean, and I say portals plural because I don't think this is the only back door.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, yeah,
I would assume they're all over the place, and otherwise it's like, on the planet of Ruidus, they happen to go into the one crack that,
right.
it's two one in a million for me. So I feel like these things are either popping up, or it's maybe the Divine Gate wasn't as solid as they thought it was, because we know it's a pre calamity Divine Gate, or um not calamity.
Divine Gate.
Yeah. What was that moment called? The sunder
uh,
not sundering. The
um,
I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't either
When
now off
they
the
when
top
they
of my
split with the
head.
primordials and the betrayer gods were.
So there was the schism, which I think
That's what I'm
that,
thinking of.
but I
Isn't
don't
that what I'm
think
thinking of?
that's when they made the Divine Gate. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I think that's when like the fracture happened. But then I
That's
don't think
right.
like
The
if there's an
divine
actual
gate
like
was after the calamity.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't
They've
know.
they've had a lot of iterations of it. Point being, and Rudis was the first iteration. So
Yeah,
like, I wouldn't be surprised if version 1.0 had a little, some issues with it.
yeah. I could either way. I'm fine with. But
Yeah.
my gut instinct right now is it makes more sense to me if this only happened because of the bloody bridge. Like now that that first hole has been punched through, these other ways are
Yeah.
now possible. Now
Yeah.
again, there's like, well, okay, the water has clearly like been traveling through enough to carve out a tunnel, so like surely that wouldn't have happened over the course of like however long the gate's been open. But who know, like maybe the water carved out the tunnels like before the divine gate. I don't know. Anyway, not important, but it would make more sense to me if that, well, okay, I say that, but one of the things you said actually made a lot of sense to me as well, that maybe just a cool connection, because we've got gods, mortals, primordials, like maybe some facet of how the primordials work usurp the divine gate. So like if it is
Mm.
the elemental plane of water, which I guess it's not because this is just water on Exandria.
Mm.
So maybe this doesn't make sense, but I could see a cool angle there of like the primordials kind of have like a weird seep through, and
Yeah.
maybe that's like they can be utilized in this battle or something.
Wasn't
Um,
there in the bottom of the crevasse, like the cave, wasn't there were bones, but I feel like, am I misremembering? Didn't Matt describe it? It was almost like a temple, or like a, maybe temple's too strong of a word. Like it was something
in Rudis, you mean?
in Rudis, like the place that they
Yeah,
were resting before they went into the little
yeah,
stream.
it was a temple.
Okay,
I
so
think the
then,
bones. I think those were two. I could be wrong. I have not like gone back to re-listen to that part. But my understanding was the bones they saw were like in the tunnels as they were going down. Like
oh,
the
okay.
implication to me being like bones from these tunnel worms that like you know.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I don't know if there were bones mentioned in the temple. There might have
Oh,
been,
okay.
but
Yeah, okay. Well, point being though, it seems like then, like, my question then goes, then temple to whom? Like who's
yeah,
the temple for? And is that identity connected to why there is, like, maybe it was a temple to a primordial? Because I mean, this was,
true, true,
here's what's interesting. This was, Ruidus was part of Exandria,
right.
right? So like, was there some collateral damage when they, popped it out of the earth? Like, were there some, like, I don't know. It's just interesting to me. I'm like, it's very interesting who this temple was for. They didn't notice any iconography to like a certain deity, though they also didn't ask or look, which I think would have been interesting if they did.
Yeah,
Um, and I think what's tough is, this almost feels like one of those things that we may not ever really get an answer on either. Though I hope we do, because I'm very curious about it.
yeah. It could be like a campaign wrap up type of question.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point of who the temple was too. I imagine like, I mean, who knows why this area of Exandria became Ruidus? Like, is it because that's where they happened to like corner Predathos at the moment of making this happen, or was like that area chosen for a specific reason? Like, could that temple, like, whatever god that was worshiping, whoever those people were they like a willing sacrifice, if you will? Like, we know, like, this has to be done. We're doing it for the good of mankind. Or was it like, hey, sucks that you guys happen to be in this area, but like that's where Ruidus is gonna be. I'm curious because if it's the
It,
former, that would be interesting too, right?
yeah.
Like a certain
Well,
god's peoples were like, yep, we're doing it. And maybe those are the what became the Rylorans or something, you know?
true. I don't know the square footage of Ruidus, but it's decently big.
Yeah.
So the chances of them like plucking it out of Exandria, like excising it without there being some blowback, I feel like is very unlikely. I just don't know which situation it is, like in terms of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, because
But
I guess it could be just an abandoned temple too, but I don't know.
I don't think so though, given the like Lana found that doll there and like,
True.
there were the different magical protections in place. But I mean, I don't know what you meant by abandoned, but it could have been like a temple that was in use that everyone's like, we got to get out of here type of thing. Like
That's what I
that.
meant.
Okay. I didn't know if you meant
Yeah, like
like this town from this episode where it just like had been long abandoned type of thing.
no, I meant like, hey, we can't say what, but something really bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably should get out of here and
Yeah.
don't go towards Cravirus. Just FYI.
I could see that.
So,
Oh,
don't
that's
tell your
interesting.
brother.
You
You
think
know,
Gravirus was a city on Exandria first?
I almost wonder if it's um whatever was at the Tishtan excavation site.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If that's like, you know, if it was, because the Tishtan excavation site is a crater essentially.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they dig that out or was it already there? I can't remember.
I think it's hard to like they did dig it out because it was like an
Yeah.
archaeological
Yeah.
excavation.
Okay.
We know
Yeah.
that the Tishtan people like were going around Exandria doing stuff. So that site might have just been a site where like a proto Malleus key was being built, as
Yeah.
opposed to like the site of Ruidus being
Yeah.
extracted from the earth. But it
Yeah.
it could have been as well though. There is that one fan art like during the art reel of like the big chunk of earth coming out of like the ocean. But I don't know like
Mm.
how canonical we can get with that artwork. Like maybe it is
Yeah.
incredibly accurate, but it also just might be
Right.
like a fun rendering of what might have happened.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I'm very curious about all of this as well. If well to kind of circle us back a little bit, the fact that if this portal was always there, it's kind of hard to believe for like such like Ludinus literally like planned for hundreds and hundreds of years to make this happen. It's like, oh, if only he'd have known. Like, there's a portal here. Like, I don't know, but I'm curious to see if Keyleth and those people do come through. Not that we would be privy to that. Like that would happen off screen, I'm sure, especially since Bell's Hells are, already off doing their own thing. But we might learn more about it through them. Like if they reconvene with her, like we might get some info about that temple or stuff that way. But that might just be hopeful thinking.
I feel like in the very least, it gives them a shorter reason to rescue Vax
Yeah,
from the
true,
Malleus key, because now there's another way.
true.
Though I guess there is the risk, like if you disconnect the bloody bridge, does that
Yeah, does
close the portals?
it's an interesting
So
thought. Yeah, I wonder
because if you,
if. Go
I,
ahead.
I'm actually a bit surprised that they didn't like pull the trigger on that a little bit sooner, because like the bloody bridge is what's holding Ruidus there. It's like what's converging all the ley lines. You would almost think like, hey, we should probably remove this ASAP, and then I hopefully, fingers crossed, Ruidus just tumbles back out into space.
Yeah,
But I guess Keela's a bit biased on that plan. So
definitely that aspect of it for sure. But I also just wonder, like, since Ludinus is already there, like maybe like kind of the damage has been done. Like you take away the bloody bridge, you take away like the path of teleport, but like with the hole punched in to the divine gate and Ludinus there, it might be like, well, he might be able to set Predathos off even if we get rid of the bloody bridge, like it might be too late, you know?
mhm.
And maybe that's just like they don't know if that's the case, so maybe they just can't take that risk. But that is a fair point. Um, I wonder if, I mean, it would make for a great one shot, but I don't know if there's like the space for that in terms of
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, not that you couldn't retroactively revisit this as a one shot, but in terms of and again, not that it's not something that everybody could just kind of hand wave away, but like the canon of like the one shot to save Vax, but like we already know, like if campaign 3 is over, like we kind of already know what
Yeah.
happened there. So I don't know if there's like the space for it, but I think that would be really cool. Um, like get the gang back together for a reunion type of one shot.
Could be a Vox Machina one shot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a like a not yeah, so not Bell's House, but like a Vox Machina reunited type
I thought you meant,
situation.
yeah, I thought you meant like a Bell's Hells reunion app. Like,
Oh no.
did we forget something? Like, what about that one
We have to
dude?
go back. But
So,
speaking of the back door, kind of aside from the Vax angle, but like, do you think they're gonna try to move an army through this back door? Like, because it is
no,
very convenient, but like that's not very realistic. I feel like.
no, I don't think so.
So like
I think,
best case, it's just like a quick in and out for like the surgical teams.
yeah, I think so. I mean, on the flip side, though, this is such like a trope, but the good guys are pretty dumb. I mean, they don't really have a good option here. I mean, you can't. We know the bloody bridge is a standstill. They can't really attack from that way. It feels risky to go through the back door because we don't even really know. Like, we don't even know if it's something special about Bell's Hells that allowed them to really utilize it.
True.
With Fern specifically. So I don't know. It doesn't feel very cut and dry to me.
I will just quickly say that the bloody bridge being a standstill, I think, is like by design. Like I think they plan on sieging that. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like they're being chill, so we'll be chill till we can figure out more, and less of a like we can't take the bloody bridge.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I guess we don't
So
know. But yeah, like I wonder if even Keyleth's a very powerful druid. They have a lot of very powerful people on their
mhm.
side. If they all showed up to that town, they could like completely excavate the lake and widen the portal, maybe depending on how it works. So like maybe it could be more feasible, but that creature is still there, right?
Yeah, they
Like they
put
didn't even
like
kill it.
no, they put like they put the skull on like the dock with like some papers from the clerk's office being like,
Yeah.
"Don't go in the water."
Hopefully, hopefully that
So,
message is received.
yeah.
Um,
So, um okay, so they're back on Ruidus. We got the detail of the flare, which was kind of cool. And we know the flare is orchestrated by,
the weave mind.
thank you. Yeah, not just the Imperium, but the Weave Mind, who they're like the elite echelon of the Imperium, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay. And we're not really clear on why they happen yet, other than it seems like there are some boons that are granted.
Yeah,
Um,
and we don't know, but it also kind of feels like how Ruidus borns are born. Like if you're born under a flare. So
oh,
like
that's right. Actually,
I
you're right.
think, but I
Yeah.
mean, at this point in the story, surely they're not playing that long of a game. Like getting our
For
next
30,
generation.
Ludus is like, how much longer do I need to stall? Give me 30 years.
Yeah, like we need at least 9
Wait,
months.
what? Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know because I think when I can't remember their names right now. The other race on Ruidus, the podling people. I don't remember what they're
Yeah.
called. But
Right.
I felt like they said that they like shared a vision. Like they all like communally had a vision or watched somebody's dream during the flare. But I don't know if I made that up.
No, you're right. It was something. This is one of my catch up episodes. It was something about how the Weave Mind, they used the flares to like give them like shared
Yeah.
dreams or something. And there was like some kind of like implication of like propaganda about it.
Yeah. So
But I just don't remember the details.
So that's what I was thinking, is that like not only do they potentially create Ruidusborns or whatever and give people the buffs, but it feels like a tool of like subjugation, especially if you feel
Right.
euphoric when it's happening. But I was curious when that happened. I was like, oh, are Imogen slash Fern gonna be like, we had this vision, but they didn't tell us anything that they saw. So I wonder if they're just like wasn't space for it in that moment, or maybe that just didn't happen this time, or maybe they don't
Yeah, I
remember. I
mean,
don't know.
and they didn't like make a saving throw either. It was just like,
Yeah.
here you go. So that also makes me very curious about um the trustworthiness of Fern
Mm,
and Imogen long term. Like, how
yeah.
are they going to resist the power of the flare long term?
Dang, like yeah, like what if there's like a big battle happening and like they're
Right,
like release the flare, and
right, right.
at the very least could take them out of the fight, or at the worst could turn them against everyone else. If it's like you're feeling like so euphoric that it's like why, like you turn against everyone else, like cuz like I got to keep this going type of thing. Yeah, that's interesting.
Hang on, my kid's banging on the door. So one sec.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to look through my notes real quick to see if I can find that part about what I still want to call them a podling person, but what that guy said. So I'm pretty sure they said they had the vision. Um, ooh, something else. Looking through my notes here, I need to remember to talk to him about is all those sending spells. Okay. We all sorry for the dead air right now. But very curious, as always, of course, on y'all's thoughts on all of this, specifically around the portal situation. Like we talked about that for like 30 minutes. But do you guys think the portal was was always operational, even when? And I know we keep using Divine Gate, which is not like the best terminology there, but again, Ruidus is Divine Gate, if I can call it that. Do you think the water portal worked this whole time, or it only worked once they broke through with the Malleus key? Oh, and I remember something else I wanted to say to Blake. Dang it. I'm definitely gonna forget these things. Um, but the fact that it is in a Silra also seems like not nothing. Everything okay?
It had to show me some crafts.
Nice.
So show me the loot haul for the
There we
day.
go. Yeah.
You
A
know,
couple things before I forget. I think I started this and I never finished it. This thought, but I liked the kind of the in-universe potential in-universe explanation for why that portal was never found, being this creature in the lake, because like no one's really lived around long enough to go like report back about this portal, because no one's ever made it out of here alive. So I don't know if Matt like did that intentionally to any degree, but in my mind I liked that.
that's why I feel like, I mean, this could be just a deep level of coincidence.
Yeah.
But that's why I wonder if it was there before the Malleus key, before the Bloody Bridge, because it almost feels like a guard dog. It almost feels like
Yeah,
I don't want anyone finding this portal, so
like
I'm
lewdness
gonna,
put it there.
I don't know, maybe. We know people have disappeared 5 years ago, so it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
At least 5 years. So I don't know. It's just very interesting. There's too many coincidences for it to
Yeah.
be random lake with a random monster that happens to be right in front of a portal to Ruidus. It just
Yeah, in a Silra.
in a Silra exactly. So
Yeah, so I think even
I
if
don't
it's
know.
not literally Ludinus's hometown, I do think I think it's close. But again, I don't necessarily think that Ludinus found that as a kid. Maybe he wouldn't have had to have found it as a kid. Maybe he just found it at some point. Um, yeah, I
And
don't know.
maybe it's one of those things where they knew there was something special about the Tishtan excavation site. Maybe just like in you remember how when they were in going to Hydroga's Manor and I can't remember the area they went through what it was called, but outside of Dressar, in
Hmm.
the Heartmoor Manor on the way through the Heartmoor.
Hmm.
Matt explained how there were like Fey, not flare ups, but just like Fey intrusions. Again, not his words, but basically the way he described it was almost like the Fey and the material plane were like not converging, but kind of like that. Like the barriers were a lot thinner here than
Hmm.
elsewhere. Is it possible that like Ludinus or someone else found that like this spot by the lake, maybe it wasn't back then a portal to Rudis, but like he could tell there's something special about the spot. Like the barrier of the gate is thinner here,
Yeah.
which I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but you know,
I
it beats
mean,
me. But
stranger things have happened than that. So like I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, not to circle us back to that because I know we talked about that at length. But when while you were gone, I was asking people in the comments to let me know their thoughts on what they think that whole situation was.
yeah.
But another thing, I forgot where we were. I forgot what we were talking about in the moment. So if you remember, feel free to throw us back there. But I was also going to briefly bring up the sending spells,
Mm,
um, because that's weird. Like
yeah.
they go back to Exandria and it works, but it previously didn't work even on Exandria. And then they go
And
back to Ruidus
worked
and it
for weeks.
right, yeah. So it's not what I'm saying by that is it's not as if they're back on Exandria so it works again because it originally didn't work there.
Yeah.
But then they go back to Ruidus and it doesn't work again. I don't get it. But my first thought was like maybe it's because they were on the other side of Exandria, but that doesn't check out because Team Asilra originally were
Yeah.
over in that part of the world and it didn't work for them. And also, we don't know where Caleb and Jester are, but like, or maybe Caleb's not a good example because they messaged him, but Jester at least messaged them, and she
Right.
like who knows what part of the world she's on. So I just didn't know. Do you have any like I can't rationally I can't put the pieces together to figure out why it would have worked in that small pocket and not anywhere else.
So it not working in Rudis almost feels like you put foil around a ball and you start to like rip off pieces of it.
Yeah.
Like you're breaking the barrier, but you're still like behind the foil, whatever. Like being back on Rudis, maybe you, it's still like you can't get messages out as
Yeah.
easily. It doesn't explain the former though. The former is interesting. Of messages hadn't worked on sendings hadn't worked on Exandria for like weeks, and now it does. So
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like Caleb and Jester and Keyleth were also like, this works again.
yeah,
So it wasn't as if like, it had come back online while Bell's Hills were gone, and now since they're back, they can
my
use it.
my first thought was like the bloody bridge had been severed, like they did something.
Yeah.
But the reason I don't think that is because when they contacted Keyleth wasn't like, oh yeah, we just attacked the bloody bridge and we destroyed the Malleus key, and
Hmm.
that's why she was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So it seems like nothing strategically speaking has changed. So either A, something's happened that we don't, Matt hasn't clued us in as to what, or B, maybe it really was what we first guessed, like way back when the party split on this this apogee solstice has created like this magical interference, and then over time it'll slowly dissipate is
Yeah.
what we guessed, and maybe it has been over time. It is weird that it's almost been like a light switch, like,
Hmm.
oh, it suddenly works again, and like everyone's figuring this out at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Like, because that's where it gets tough. Because on some level, it's a D&D game, and if Matt needs the open world
Yeah,
communications to be on again, he's going to turn them on again,
yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. But if there is like a method to the specific madness, I'm very curious what it is, and like, could it at all be that there's something unique about Bell's Hells? Like, because and
mm,
who knows if I guess other sendings probably work because presumably Caleb and Jester communicated somehow. And so if they're not literally together, then he had to have gotten word to her. So maybe it's not a unique Bell's Hells situation. I don't know. But I
yeah.
was
I mean,
I was
I don't know how
very
sending
curious about
works.
that.
Like, can Caleb message her and be like, someone talk to me, and her know how to reach that person?
Well, I can't I can't remember if Caleb has sending. So that's the first issue
Yeah, I
that
don't
I'm
think he
at.
does.
So because if they're not together, I mean, maybe he knows enough people to get a message to. I mean, he does. He knows enough people to get a message to Jester. But if you know like a description of somebody, like you've seen it in this campaign, even like they'll describe
Right.
somebody to
That's right.
Imogen and then she'll reach
That's
out.
right.
So he must have just given Jester a description of Imogen.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But in any case, weird circumstances with the sending right now.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. You guys have to let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Um, Here's a question because I don't remember what happened. So Ashton did his, mudsliding action,
Mhm.
whatever it's called. He took 2 points of exhaustion,
Yeah.
which is wild.
That's rough.
This isn't the one D&D. They don't do the one D&D version of exhaustion, I don't think. Which the one D&D version, the new system is every point of exhaustion you get a -1 to your rolls basically. The old one, let's see, disadvantage on ability checks and speed halved.
Mhm.
If you take a third one, basically if you get to 6 you die, which
Yeah.
is pretty rare. But question though, it was a greater restoration is what he needed. Did F.C.G mention? Oh, I have that. And did F.C.G use that on him?
I don't know if it was used yet, but he does have it.
Yeah, okay. Because he offered, but I don't know if it was actually casted.
Yeah, I actually don't know
Um,
either. But I mean, thank goodness they have that because that's 2 days. Like you got to rest 2
right,
nights to get rid of that. So that puts
right.
a big timer on things. But they do have greater restoration. But yeah,
And then seemingly we got confirmation that Orem has the Fey touched feat with Misty
seemingly,
Step,
yeah, seemingly.
which let's see here. Fey touched. You learn Misty Step in one level 1 spell of your choice, which must be from
Which
divination or the enchantment school of magic.
wait, didn't he I might be just making this up, but didn't he hex something?
Hex is one of those.
Okay, but did he or am I making that up?
I don't remember him casting Hex, but he might have.
I might just be making that. Maybe I'm
He
thinking of
might
something
have.
else. um but yeah, so okay, I'm glad you brought this up. So not only that, but we found out Chetney's thing is that he's a legendary toy maker now, like mechanically, like he seemingly has that title and can craft toys that do something.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see what those do because I mean, I don't think they're going to be crazy powerful, but I bet they are going to like.
It
It,
almost gives the impression of like a tinkerer subclass.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
can
yeah,
create like these items that have utility in combat or something.
yeah. That's totally the vibe I got, which is interesting because he didn't fulfill his end of the bargain yet.
Right.
Which we know Orem kind of got his gift ahead of the time because that's like the nature of his deal. He wanted strength to protect his friends. But Chetney, it was like I imagined it would be once he brings back the whatever it is he was supposed to bring Prodothos, I guess, a
Shard of
piece.
Prodothos.
Like
Yeah.
then he would become a legendary toy maker. But it's interesting that he already has that boon. Also, I'm worried because we talked about back when this happened, kind of the monkey's paw wish fulfillment of like a deal with a hag like this. And technically, I think I'd have to go back and listen to the wording, but I think Nanamori's end of the bargain is fulfilled because they all made it back to Exandria safe. Like they've already been back now.
I don't like that.
So I don't know if
That
that's
was
exactly how it
that
was
was
worded.
Orem's deal.
Yeah, sorry, I switched back over to Orem.
Yeah, I
Um
don't like that. I don't like that at all.
yeah, so
I'm not a fan.
yeah, y'all let me know if I'll probably go back and watch it, but y'all let me know like what the wording was there. Like maybe he included like after we defeat Predathos or something. But if that like
No,
wordage
he
wasn't
didn't.
there, yeah,
Yeah, he said we all make because they fought over like back alive, and she said, as you are, you'll make it back,
yeah.
and they did. Oh, I don't like
So
that at all.
yeah,
Not a
uh,
fan of that.
me either. So that that'll be an interesting thing to see how it plays out, even if everything goes well with the rest of the campaign. Like maybe that would be a Bell's Hells Reunited one shot, like freeing Orem or something. I don't know. But yeah, interested to see Chet's toys. Worried about Orem, and also speaking of Orem, not much to say here, but just loved the moment between him and Imogen where he just kind of broke down and gave her the huge hug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I said this in the live chat, but very Twinergy, Vax and Vex there. But it's just interesting to see, like, Liam is so good at like those types of like he's RPing, but he's not like saying anything, it's just like pure character.
Mm-hmm.
Um movement is a weird word to say. I don't really know how to encapsulate it, but like yeah, Orem's just like we've talked about it, how he's like been slipping into like this darkness, and that felt like the first like kind of breath of fresh air for him in a long time.
I know.
Um,
I just thought, poor guy.
yeah, yeah,
It was kind of the optimistic one, and yeah, I mean, he's been through the ringer. So, though I will say in the live chat, really not happy with Will because when he did the sending stone to Dorian, Will was like, "What if he doesn't respond?" And everyone was like, "Boo!" And then that's what happened.
it
So,
was a joke. But
thanks, man.
I'm curious about like I'm glad you said that, because do we think that like I'm of two thoughts here. One is like he actually didn't respond, and for whatever reason, and we can talk about that, or like maybe some element of that wasn't really happening because Orem was like starting to get under the lake compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
So which side are you leaning there? Like, did Dorian not respond, or did he like maybe never even really get that message?
I think the latter is plausible. I think the former is more likely that
Yeah,
Dorian was either unable to respond, which could set up an interesting like one shot later, um, or because isn't the last we saw him wasn't he in the cave?
yeah, with Dariax, something was
Yeah,
going on.
but didn't we also see an image later of Dariax like in a bar or something like with a drink? Maybe
Hmm.
with what's her face, Amy Carrero's character.
Opal.
Yeah, I don't remember honestly. I can't
I
recall.
I
Maybe that
remember
was
what you're talking about,
yeah.
but I don't know if that happened before or after the cave.
Right. Well, so there's a data point at least of Dorian in a cave looking kind of haggard. Um
Dariax
so
was the one. Like
oh,
Dorian
okay.
was there, like we got mention of like Dorian walking up to him, but like Dariax was like the one the vision was focused on, I think.
Okay. I gotcha. But it could be as simple as what Imogen said, like, hey, it's the middle of the night. Maybe he's asleep.
Yeah. And I
So
mean honestly that Matt obviously wanted to kind of lead to that lake encounter, and maybe he didn't want to like write himself into any corners by revealing anything about what Dorian's got going on right now. So I think it could be completely harmless, and that is the case. Like, oh, he was asleep. But could also be worse than that.
right.
We'll have to see. Do you think it feels like we could be primed to have another guest come on? Like, I don't know, like be it Dorian, if like there is, he can come back, or just anyone for like this Ruidus arc, if you will. I
I
kind
don't
of
see
expected it in
I
some
don't
of the
see it
past
being
episodes, but yeah.
yeah, I don't see it being Dorian. However, I would love to have Dorian for like the last batch of episodes,
Yeah.
like in the story with as it started with Dorian there. That would feel right to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree 100%. Like from an above the table standpoint, 100%. I feel like you got to get him back in for like at least a moment, like at the end, because he started it there, like everybody wants him back. So I think like in a perfect world that like has to be happening, but in the real world with scheduling and all that, like I don't feel confident saying like he'll for sure come back. But I feel like that has to be like I feel like everybody has to want that.
I feel
Like
like he was
from
like
the production side, like from their
I
side of things even.
I think from a fanfare standpoint, I feel like everyone liked Dorian a lot. Like
Yeah, yeah, totally.
it felt really bad when he left. So I mean, I would love for him to come back to the table in some form. Short form, I think in the city, I could totally see a guest character being like one of the
Yeah.
rebel fighters, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
And it being someone new would be my guess.
Agreed.
'Cause it's been
Agreed.
about 20 episodes, right? Since Bordor and Utkarsh and Amy were on the show.
Yeah.
Um,
It just
so I can
feels like a prime, not only like timing wise, but like just story wise, it feels like ripe for like perfect opportunity to bring in a character that also has a natural exit point. Like a
yeah,
character to help them while they're in Kraviris, like an undercover agent with the rebellion. Do they have a name yet?
that I don't remember.
Yeah, but like that type of character that's like,
Yeah,
and then like I said, natural kind of parting point for when Bell's Hells leave to go back to Exandria type of thing. Um, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I kind of feel like we're on the verge of a guest.
yeah, yeah. I can see it.
Um, but yeah, looking through my notes here really quick. I think I just remembered where we left off. I think it was the exhaustion thing.
Mm.
Which
Yeah, and that was only me just trying to figure out if the greater restoration had been. I'm trying to get a sense of like the resources they have,
yeah.
and it'd be a very powerful expense, I
Yeah,
guess.
especially cuz there's two of them, right? Like if Ashton and Fern both do it, like we need two greater restorations.
Right,
Or we need 2 days.
right.
But it was cool to kind of see it in action a bit. I'm really curious like what the actual, like we know he's got the earth glide or whatever.
That's right.
And is powerful enough to make a tunnel. But I'm curious like what combat wise what that thing's capable of. I think it was mentioned that like even kneeling down he was 6 feet tall.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like how tall is Ashton in that form? Like I mean if you kneel you're like at least half your height,
Yeah.
right? Maybe like more reduced. So like
He's probably like
12,
maybe six and a.
15.
He's probably about 6.5 feet. You know, he's bigger on the bottom than he is on the
Okay.
top.
So
So
kneeling he just got
he's like the
taller
Mario
basically.
guy, but instead of like the tiny head, from the Mario movie, instead of the tiny head, it's like a tiny upper half
Are you talking about the
torso.
Mario movie with like John Leguizamo or the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
one?
No. No.
uh I don't know which guy you're
one of
talking.
the one of the henchmen,
Oh yeah,
Goombas.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's got like the tiny head.
I
That's his
actually really
top half.
liked that movie as a kid. Like, I'm
I
sure
did
it wasn't.
too.
I'm sure it like was a terrible movie, all things
Yeah.
considered. But like as a little boy, that was like Mario. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Um,
Blue Streak, you know?
yeah. Well, come on, Blue Streak's just amazing.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
I actually, not to get us off subject here, but there's like that whole like era of movies I haven't seen in like
Yeah.
15, 20 years maybe. So like I would love to like revisit those and see if they at all stand up. There's probably like lots of problematic things in
Yeah, I
most
kind
of
of
them.
prefer not to go back to those
Just
things for that reason
keep the
exactly.
memories. The
Yeah, there's like a very like warm nostalgic feeling in my mind, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like when I rewatch Scrubs with my wife, and you can really see like the humor from the early 2000s, I guess. But some things that you're just like,
I hate to hear that because I love
oh,
Scrubs, but I haven't watched
yeah,
it in a while.
it's a product of its time,
Yeah.
So anyway,
Um.
um, okay, what is there anything else to talk about?
Yeah. One last big thing on my notes, and it's just this whole Delilah situation.
Oh, yes, great.
Not that there's like too much to talk about here, but um, they had a little heart to heart, and it seems like Delilah's just the master manipulator. You know, saying what Laudna wants to hear. Um, but yeah, we talked about this in our last episode. Like that feels like it's going to come to a boiling point at some point, and I'm just curious, like what that is. Like, does Delilah fully exert control and like takes over Laudna's body, so to speak, or does it more take the form of Laudna like losing it and having her own agency, but kind of just turning like in its.
Yeah, I do wonder what the end game is for Delilah. Like, what is she trying to get to? And like this consuming of power, like she's already consumed the Gnarl Rock shard, and then was there something else? Wasn't there something else or no? I don't
What
remember.
what the Marowak shard, is that what you said?
Gnarl Rock
Oh, Nalrock. Yeah,
shard.
yeah. So there was that.
Was there
Um,
something else?
I think there
She
was.
wanted the Shard of Comort,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
no, the Shard of the other
Raushan.
one,
Yeah.
Rashon. Thank you.
So no, I don't think there were any other items that were consumed, but there were people, like Bordor and
Oh, right. Yes,
yeah.
that's the important detail. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the essences of other people. Um yeah, I'm wondering like where this goes.
To me, what makes sense is just that like that she wants a vessel. She wants a physical body again, and this power will at some point allow her to take over Laudna. That's like my best
Yeah.
common sense line to draw, but like what does she want to do from that point? Like if she let's just
Yeah.
assume she gets control, like what's her end game there? Does she even have one? Maybe she just wants a body and to be able to do her own thing again. But like is it all I know you didn't see campaign 1, but like you've seen Legend of Vox Machina, so you know the story here. Like she had a husband, Silas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like
and I picked up on all those undertones.
yeah, so like
Yeah.
everything she did, she broke the world for him is one of like the quotes. So could this all be in some form to try to bring him back again somehow? I don't know
I
how
could
she
see that.
would, but like
Yeah, I
I could
mean,
see that being her motivation.
she said something like I failed to protect my loved one, not using she didn't finish the sentence, but I failed to do that.
Yeah.
But there's something nice about characters who, even when they conceptually know what's true, they still can't
Yeah.
like stop pursuing. So I could totally see her like, yeah, I failed, and yet I'm going to consume these items or people, essences, whatever, to see
Yeah.
if I
I'm
can.
gonna keep trying because like what do I have
Yeah.
to lose type of thing. Yeah.
The thing that really grossed me out was I hated when she said to Laudna, you've been given a second chance. And she said, like, you've been given a second chance. We both have.
Hmm.
And I'm like, her first chance was gone because you tortured
You
and
killed her,
murdered
yeah.
her. Exactly. I know. I was like, what a like disgustingly like fake virtuous
Yeah, a little
comment.
gaslighter.
Yeah, yes, that's a good way to put it. Was like, you've been given a second chance after I brutally murdered you.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, this character. So it really, highlights. I mean, all of these characters are really like broken in different ways, which is interesting. I think it makes for an interesting story. But
Yeah.
Laudna, it has such a tragic. I mean, we're literally witnessing her continuation of that tragedy because she
Yeah.
lives in the eternally connected, it seems, with her torturer or
Yeah.
tormentor. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because in the that early episode when Imogen was in the library in the conservatory or whatever, and was reading up about how you can separate someone from their patron.
Hmm.
Um, it almost felt like that was like a slight glimmer of hope of what could unfold during the campaign.
Yeah.
And that has not been the case. She's continued to be bound to Delilah. Though I guess before she opened herself up to Delilah again, Delilah was at least dormant ish,
Yeah.
I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It is tragic. And, it definitely feels like it's going to get a lot worse before it ever could get better. So, and no guarantee that it'll get better necessarily, depending on
Yeah.
where the campaign goes. But yeah, um,
I
definitely.
think,
Yeah.
well, and I think on that, I don't know how campaign 2 ended in the sense of where I'm going with this statement, but I just kind of wonder if like we should kind of like recognize there may not be a happy ending with some of these characters in the sense of like maybe the mission overall is successful, but like it's spoilers to Final Fantasy people, Final Fantasy 10. Like Final Fantasy 10 is a great example of the overall mission was accomplished, but it was a tragic end because Titus and Auron, and I think just the two of them, basically had to disappear, right? Because they were like, I guess, dreams of past or whatever it was. I
Yeah.
don't, it's a Final Fantasy game. You never really know what's happening. But so I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. Like, I'm not saying like there could be a nice happy ending for sure, but like with all the campaigns, it's not like a fairy tale, the book's closed. Like all of those characters are still doing things in the world, you know? So it's very much m- more akin to real life where like, yeah, you might have a victory, but like that doesn't mean everything's peachy and keen for the rest of the time. And especially with campaign 3, like there's definitely been selfless isn't the right word, but like selfless or self-sacrificial characters in previous campaigns. But
Hmm.
especially in campaign 3, I feel like we have half, if not more, of the party that would like willingly go for the like, I'm gonna take myself out to help everybody else. So like
Hmm.
I could definitely see some like PC deaths due to due to that. Like literally Orem easily would do it. Laudna will do it. Imogen and Laudna would do it for each other. FCG's been talking about like making the
They
self-sacrificial
have to
play the
keep stopping.
entire
FG, stop,
yeah.
please.
I think Ashton would do it. Um,
Yeah.
Fern and Chetney are the only ones that I could see them doing it, but like that less
Let's
so them.
agree. Let's agree. Chetney's the least likely. Chetney be
Yeah.
like, I'm good. I'm gonna get out of here. Well, I'm gonna head out.
He's a big
So,
softy on the inside.
well, we're coming to the end of our conversation today. Overall, a great app. You know, I do. One thing I wanted to make sure to say, and it's maybe not even worth saying, but I am because I am so cognizant of I don't say criticism, like, I guess, around Critical Role. I would just say, like, something I really liked about this episode is that ambient first half that didn't add anything to, like, the overall narrative, but again, just makes such freaking good D&D.
Yeah.
It's just so fun, and, no one asked what I thought about it, but I just as I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, it's really fun that they are able to do this and enjoy this. Matt took what could have been just a random, like, hey, he found a portal and made it really interesting and
Yeah.
engaging and terrifying. And, I learned what a false hydra is and, you know, just very cool.
Yeah.
So,
Totally agreed.
anyway.
Um
All right. Squad, let us know what you thought about this app in the comments. Don't forget, we will have our watch party tomorrow night for Candela. In the Discord, we have a Sunday Fun Day movie night, Sunday night, 7:30. Right? 7:30.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got to get these times, man.
Yeah.
I'm always lost now. And then Friday's live stream at 1 o'clock. I'm gonna be putting Will
Yeah, you still got
under
me
under the
nervous.
under the spotlight.
Still got me nervous with whatever that means.
So anyway, I think that does it.
Yeah. Appreciate you hanging out with us as always. But we will
Yeah.
see you next time. Goodbye.